what you experience during the fast, it's really about the intersection, and the primary factor is the intersection of toxicity and vitality in the body, where those two things intersect. They're not the same. It might seem like they are, because wouldn't you be less vital if you're more toxic? Yes, perhaps, but it's all relative. So someone could have very high vitality, even if they're toxic, they might still have a higher vitality than somebody else. So let me give you an example of what I'm talking about here. Let's say that someone has high vitality and their body's relatively clean, but not completely clean. There's some toxicity. With very high level of vitality, what would you expect to see? And early in the process? Energy. What would that? How would the body use that energy to deal with toxicity?
Cleaning house.
Yeah, you might have powerful symptoms early in the process. Okay. What if someone is very toxic and has very low vitality? What might you see in that case? You could see no symptoms. You could see, in fact, let me tell you a story. I'm trying to remember when this was. I've been in Central America now 14 years. This would have been 18 years ago, roughly, 17, 18 years ago. I flew into Santa Monica Airport for a lecture tour in Southern California. And the local organizer there was a young woman, a client of mine, who was an aspiring model. 6 foot, 6'1", beautiful. She'd come from somewhere in Middle America to go to LA to try to get work as an actress or a model. I think it was just her, and and 400,000 other girls just like her, right, looking for the same work. It's a difficult market, and so she was struggling to pay her bills working as a waitress somewhere. Common story, right? And really struggling because it's an expensive town. And so when I got into her car, she came to pick me up at the airport, and I said, "How's everything looking?" She had arranged 6 or 7 events in her area, and she said things look really good, but she was disappointed. She said, "It's just that there's this one guy, like I wanted him to come to an event, he's not going to come." I'm like, why are you attached to this one guy? And so she told me the story. So she'd moved out there, she'd met this guy, and he'd helped her out. And how many of you know Santa Monica, California? Okay, so if you don't know Santa Monica, LA, you see LA, you see, like in movies, people at the beach. LA's not on the ocean, okay? If you go from LA's inland a little bit, but if you go due west, you come to Santa Monica. And then north, there's Malibu, and there's other beach towns. Right? As you can imagine, beachfront property in Santa Monica, close to LA, that's pretty expensive property. Anyone know what an apartment, a condo, a nice condo on the beach in Santa Monica is worth?
$7,500.
$50 million. You mean rent?
Oh yeah, rent.
No, I'm talking about to buy it.
Oh,
50 million.
1.5 to
maybe Laguna Beach would be that much, but
$2 million maybe.
yeah.
Okay.
Trash.
Probably a little higher.
Maybe more.
Yeah.
At the time, it was somewhere between $1 and $2 million. Okay. This is a nice size apartment on the beach. So this guy she was talking about lived in an apartment on the beach in Santa Monica. Big deal. Lots of people live on apartments on the beach in Santa Monica. There's lots of millionaires. He owned 10 or 12 other apartments in the building where he kept his stuff. Okay, he had like between $12 and $20 million worth of oceanfront closet space. Okay, does that give you an idea? Okay, money wasn't an issue. He was a billionaire. He owned a controlling interest in a long list of companies. He had a house on Central Park, and a house in London, and a house in Paris, and a house in the Caribbean, and yachts, and helicopters, and airplanes, etc., etc. And so he'd met this beautiful 25-year-old model, aspiring model, and said, "I'll clear a little bit of space in one of the units. You can put a mattress on the floor." She didn't have a bedroom. She didn't have a bed. She had a mattress on the floor surrounded by his stuff. Okay, that's where she lived, right? She had used the bathroom. And she told me that every day they took a walk on the beach together. So I said, give him a call. Right? She's upset because he's not going to come to one of the events. I said, give him a call. Right now, call him and ask him if it's okay if I join you for your walk tomorrow morning. And she'd been trying to convince him, so he knew who I was. Right? He knew I was coming to town. So he agreed. And we met on the beach the next morning. And she hung back, and I walked with this guy for about an hour down the beach and back. And the flyer that she had prepared at the time, it said something like, Loren hasn't been sick a day in 15 years, right? Whatever it was true at the time. So first thing he says to me is, I never get sick either. I said, that might be a good thing. And he said, what do you mean? How could it not be a good thing? So anyone, how could it not be a good thing? Symptoms are evidence your body's doing what? Cleansing and healing. What if there were no symptoms because the body didn't have enough vitality to create symptoms?
Most people drop dead.
I explained this to him. Okay? It could be a good thing, but it might not be. It's a good thing if your body's clean enough that it doesn't ever need to cleanse. But what if there's simply not enough energy? Now, we're having this conversation. I've already been walking with him for a few minutes, right? When we get back, a couple things happen. He says to me, Loren, he says, everything you said makes sense. I'm going to clear my schedule. It's going to take me 6 months, but I'm going to clear my schedule. I'm going to come spend a month with you. It never happened. Okay? The next thing that happened was, so if you know Santa Monica, California has the best farmers market I've ever seen. They clear like 6 or 8 city blocks of the downtown, and all the farmers from everywhere in California come in with their produce. And they get there at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning to set up. And when I got there the next day, we met with them. It was like Tuesdays and Thursdays, I forget, whatever it was. The next day was a market day. The day after we met him. And he left a message on her phone later that day that said, hey, if you're going to the market tomorrow, could you pick up some of that fruit and shit for me? Those are his exact words, right? Now, he said to me when we're talking, he said, I never eat fruit or vegetables. I said, what do you mean? He said, I never eat them. I said, why not? He said, every time I eat fruits or vegetables, they make me feel sick. Why do you think that is?
Detoxifying.
Because his diet is usually so bad, if he eats any fruits or vegetables, lightens it up a little bit, his body is able to begin detoxifying. I explained this to him, right? So he says to me, makes perfect sense. We walk away, and she says to me, what do you think? And I said to her, I think he's in bad shape. She said, what do you mean? So I'm a Reiki master, okay? I work with energy. I can feel people's energy. I stood 2 feet away from this guy for an hour. I felt no more energy than there was coming off of the parking meter. Parking meter had more energy. It was actually, it was operating, right? I said, I think he's in really bad shape. So he was sincere about coming to fast with me, but it didn't happen. It didn't happen because 2 months later, at the age of 47, he dropped dead in Paris. He was never sick. There were no symptoms. He dropped dead at 47. They have no idea why he died. Okay, I know why he died. His pancreas was no longer able to produce enough energy, enough enzymes, to create the chemical reactions that are necessary to survive. He died of old age at 47. Okay, so you can have no symptoms and that not be a good thing. Does this make sense to everyone? Clear. I mean, no symptoms, none whatsoever. Right? People, you're never sick. You must be really healthy. Maybe not. Maybe not. Okay? A lot of symptoms. That means you're very unhealthy, right? Maybe not. If 2 people eat the same crap diet, which is what your question was, let's say 2 people are living on McDonald's. One of them looks fine. One of them seems to be okay. What does that tell you? There's only 2 possibilities that occur to me.
Genetics?
Oh, well, first of all, we cannot forget about genetics. Genetics are real, okay? Genetics are a factor, all right? Some people look super young, super healthy, no matter what they do. No matter how badly they treat themselves, they still look reasonably good. They were blessed with good genes. Okay, other people, maybe not so much. But if someone's eating a crap diet and has no visible symptoms from that, it suggests to me that either their body is able to detoxify really, really quickly, or more likely, not at all. Not at all. Someone else eating that crap diet, maybe they've got acne. That's their body going, you know what? My liver can't push all this, can't process all this stuff. We're going to push some of this out through the skin. But their body's doing something to cleanse itself. Okay? So symptoms aren't necessarily a bad thing. They're just evidence the body's doing what it needs to do. Right? I mean, and this is so critically important because the paradigm is just completely wrong. It's 180 degrees off. We live in a world where people think the symptom is the problem. Okay? What you want is you want to be vital enough that if your body needs to detoxify, it's able to. If it needs to, it's able to do that. Right? That's what's going to happen for most of you. But it's kind of funny. We'll sometimes have people, I call it symptom envy. You know, someone will come to me and say, how come I don't feel like shit like my roommate? Right?
You got it faster long enough.
I need to extend my fast.
Yeah.
So it's either vitality or your pain.
Well, again, right. I mean, it's the intersection between two different things. So you can't, I hope you're not walking away going, oh, I didn't have very many symptoms. That means my body has low vitality. It doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean that. It means that there's an infinite number of possible combinations. And the result could look the same for lots of different reasons. So we can't say, well, you're not having symptoms because of this or that. We don't really know what it is. Okay, there could be a number of things. And the truth is that the majority of what's happening in your body are the things that are basically invisible to your body, to you. You're not going to notice them. Okay? If you feel nausea, if you're vomiting bile, it'll be obvious. Right? If you've got a headache, you're suffering pain, if you've got any serious pain in your body, that'll be obvious. Right, Todd, you've had trouble getting comfortable for much of this 2 weeks. Okay, that's obvious, but if your pancreas is healing, you may never feel that. Okay, most of your organs, if they're healing, you may never feel them. Okay, you may never know anything's going on. All right? Does that make sense? So don't worry, right? Here's the thing. I guarantee you, whether you have symptoms or not, whether you've already completed your process, 35 days, no significant symptoms. You felt okay most of the time.
I did fainted for a second.
You did faint?
Ago.
Yep. You've also eaten a cleaner diet than the average person for how long now?
A year before coming here.
For a year.
Yeah.
Okay. So that obviously makes a difference because the body begins cleansing as soon as you improve your diet, right? Just as it happened with this guy in the story. Okay, you probably already did a bunch of detoxification. But here's the thing. You're going to find out, just as we've seen, you've been here now for 6 weeks, 5 weeks. 5 weeks. You've seen a bunch of people complete their processes and leave. Almost everyone so far, I can think of one exception, but almost everyone so far that's completed the process, walked out of here, has walked out of here doing really, really well. People feel great. You will too, even if you didn't have a lot of symptoms. You're going to feel amazing. You're going to know at that point that your body's accomplished some significant things, even if it wasn't evident during the process. So don't worry. Don't worry. Okay, it's going to be really powerful for you.